The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
This week, BMG TV hosted the ambassador of Germany to Georgia, Peter Fischer. Fischer is a career diplomat who joined the German Federal Foreign Office in 1986. His professional path has focused on Germany's global partnerships for economic progress and sustainability. He has held several positions at the Federal Foreign Office in Berlin, including head of Department for International Environmental Policy, as well as Chief Economist. He served at German diplomatic missions in Washington, D.C. as head of the Economic Department, in Tel Aviv as Deputy Ambassador, as well as in London, Shanghai and Singapore. Giorgi Isakadze conducted an exclusive interview. We'll be airing part of it today, and you can view the full interview in Forbes Week this Sunday evening. Don't miss.
Your background is quite followed with economics, climate changes, energy portions and things like that. Can we consider that besides politics, it will be main areas what you're going to be following as a general purpose of your work, what you're going to be doing for next years in Georgia?
Well, economics, politics, it's all connected.
Indeed.
So my main focus is going to be to accompany Georgia and to support Georgia on its path towards the European Union. Georgia has declared it wants that membership, and we, the European Union, have said we welcome the membership. So the main focus, the framework of my work is supporting Georgia on that path. I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Yes,
the details
definitely.
of those paths as we
How
go along.
we're doing, that's going to be my next question.
Yes, and but that path is, of course, not only a political development. Much of it will have to do with the economy, with being ready to be part of the single European market. And I would like to take my experience and put it into value in Georgia. I would be delighted if after a few years of doing service here, I could say there were some economic projects that I had a part in, that created jobs, that advanced skills, that brought income, prosperity to Georgia. Yes, so that would be very nice indeed.
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned about Georgia's standing on the road to European integration. How far we are?
I think you are doing pretty good. What we understand is that the will of the Georgian people across the board is very strong. You know, to join the European Union, there's three elements that candidate countries or countries that wish to join have to bring. The first is obvious. You have to share the values and the goals of the European Union. We're like a club. We want people to share our goals and values. The second, and that's a principal part of goals and values, you have to be a sustainable, pluralistic democracy. We're a club of democracies. There's no place for undemocratic states in our union. And the third is the economic aspect. The economy of the country that wishes to join has to be ready to withstand pressures that come with the internal market. Once you're in the EU, it's one market. There's no customs, there's no kind of protection for your market, for your companies from the competition. So it has to be a mature economy. And Georgia on all those areas is making good progress. There's more progress to be made. Right now you have what we call the European perspective.
Correct.
At some point we'll follow the candidate status. And once you have the candidate status, we begin official negotiations. And those negotiations have to lead to a point where the European Union says, Georgia has achieved the acquis. In other words, has transposed the full body of European regulation, laws, and standards, or is ready to transpose that in the short term. And that's a giant task, because the full body of European legislation, regulation, and standards, it comes from has to do with the political, the way the state is organized, the judiciary, and so on. But then every detail of public life, the quality of the water, the safety of the pedestrian crossings, just to name arbitrary examples. It's a very broad and deep agenda.
Before that, as you absolutely correctly mentioned, we should fulfill some homework, let me say so, about 12 quite well-known recommendations
Yes.
for the whole Georgian population. I'm sorry. What's your personal expectations in these regards, and do you think that is there anything what threatens Georgian democracy?
My expectation is that Georgia can fulfill those 12 recommendations. It's in the hands of the Georgians.
Correct.
And of the Georgian political system. I like to say the ball is in your court, but different than in sports, we are here to help you play the ball, to return the ball. And that's true of the Union, the European Union, the Commission, of all the member states. All our cooperation is geared towards supporting you. There are some areas where I believe more progress will have to be made. If you don't mind my saying so, one is the polarization. Mm-hmm. It's very important for Georgia to send a message. We have a consensus that we want this. We are all working in this direction, and we're working together on it. If the message that comes to the European Union is that the Georgians just can't get along and can't agree on anything, I don't think that's as helpful as it needs to be. But on the other hand, the government has a clear agenda, a clear legislative process. They say everything will be delivered in terms of laws by Christmas time, by the end of the year. So we're observing that. The process is important. It should be an inclusive process involving all political forces in the country. And of course, we'll have to look at the results. But as I said, it's really a teamwork. We're both, the European Union, its member states, and Georgia are working together on this goal.
Yeah. Before moving to the main interest of mine, I mean economics and business, there is one thing which really bothers me, and I think the whole Georgian community. Mr. Ambassador, we might not face so-called depolarization in general, but there is no polarization in regards of how we are moving towards the EU. That's where everybody is united, I mean, within them. But as you absolutely right mentioned, we might have the situation where polarization exists, but at the same time we have fulfilled all the obligations which are going to be definitely observed and monitored later on. I mean, the quality, the purpose, aims, all the recommendations. Do we have still a chance when the community is united for the aims that there is no polarization in this regards, that we are following EU, we want to be a part of this family, as you mentioned, the club?
Yes.
We see that the door is opening for us, but at the same time, internal political polarization still exists. It might be restriction for
No, you will.
this process.
You definitely have the chance and will have the chance. I mean, political polarization exists in other countries as well.
I think.
And
Well, it depends on the level. Yeah.
it depends on the level, and a lively political debate is part of pluralistic democracies.
Absolutely.
It's the form of the debate, and can a consensus be achieved? What I notice sometimes here is that people don't argue about policy proposals, they argue about the legitimacy of the other person, of the other party. I think that's rather less helpful. So just, I would say, bring down the temperature a little bit, be careful about personal attacks, and be careful about delegitimizing other political forces. I'm not here to tell the Georgians how to run their politics, how to have their debates. That's not my job. Georgia is for the Georgians. All I can say is the impressions that some developments make on us Europeans. But the bottom line is, of course, you have the opportunity is here. I would just like to add, it's also now.
Yes.
You know,
momentum.
At the end of next year, the European Council will reconvene to see how the aspirant countries are doing. So we have around 1 year that really, really counts.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.